My name is Rachel, and the three places that I'm going to draw a map for are all places that have to do with the great admiration and honor that Pittsburgh had for its own industrial greatness. So in the past, when there was money and there were resources, so here's Forbes Avenue coming from Squirrel Hill, and there's a point where Forbes sort of starts curving around at the edge of Carnegie Mellon. This is CMU in here. And at that point, so this is Forbes. Squirrel Hill is over here. At that point, if you take the piece of Forbes that branches off and goes into Shenley Park, and it starts curving down here, right at the point where it curves, there's a little pond. And in the pond is a little fountain. And situated around it is a sculptural wall, which is called the Westinghouse Memorial. And the pond and the wall together were dedicated to George Westinghouse to honor him and his inventions. Probably everybody knows Westinghouse as a company now. It is a company, it was a company founded by him, but he invented a whole lot of things, including, for example, air brakes that trains still use to stop, I believe. Anyway, this wall has sculptures on it and in front of it, which are really great. But the thing that I love the most about it is that there are these little panels spread around the wall. They're all kind of around the base of it. They're made of granite, but they look like marble, and etched into them, just like line drawings almost, are descriptions and pictures of George Westinghouse's main inventions. And it's artistically absolutely gorgeous. Worth seeing just for the artistry, but I also think just to see how proud Pittsburgh was of things like engineering and air brakes and great industrial companies. In fact, I just read recently that that fountain and the whole Westinghouse Memorial was paid for by 55,000 Westinghouse employees around the world who made contributions to it. And in fact, I think if you want to see a quick picture of it, it's a nice picture, a springtime picture on Google Maps. Somebody's posted a nice photo. You don't get detail, but you can see the layout of the whole thing. It's really pretty. So that's one object on my map, the Westinghouse. I call it the Westinghouse Fountain. I believe it's formally called the Westinghouse Memorial. Then coming back this way towards Squirrel Hill, a few blocks in is Whiteman Street. And then up here is Wilkins. That's one of the main streets, going from Shadyside to Squirrel Hill. And then in just a little bit is Solway. And right here is the Whiteman School, which is another one of those great things when there used to be money for public buildings. Pittsburgh just has so many absolutely beautiful buildings that are either industrial or public buildings or schools. This was an elementary school. It's now used as a community center. There are tons of classes in there. There are dance classes and dances and Aikido, all kinds of things happen in there. And also there's a daycare center that is housed there. But from the days when it was a school, this is something you can only see, if you're lucky, in the winter. If you walk around the back of the school, on the first floor and back, there's some stained glass windows. And I'm sure everybody knows Pittsburgh is full of really beautiful stained glass windows, because that was one of the things we made in the old days. And these stained glass windows are actually about school. So they have pictures of teachers and students and kids reading, and they're also really beautiful, but the reason you can only see them, if you're lucky, in the winter is that it has to be dark outside and light inside, which means it has to be dark during business hours of the daycare center. I suppose you could actually ask them to turn on the lights for you at night, but I've never done that. Anyway, if it happens to be dark and they're open, it's worth just taking a walk back behind here to look at those windows. And then the third object, which is hardly a secret treasure because it's in plain sight and really famous, but I think also just really great, is at this end of the CMU campus. So if you come along Forbes and walk into the CMU campus, there's a building which is now called Hammerschlag Hall. It used to be called what it was when it was built in 1912, which was Machinery Hall. It was the original power plant for CMU. Well, it wasn't even CMU, it was the Carnegie Institute of Technology. In 1912, one of the first buildings built, and it's a really, really lovely, beautiful Beaux-Arts building. It has a very large tower that was built to conceal the smokestack of the boiler room. I guess it was built somewhere between 1912 and 1914. And it's actually famous as one of the nicest Beaux-Arts buildings around. Anyway, I think that's also just one of the lovely things, that the most beautiful building on the CMU campus is the building that surrounded the power plant. And originally they even used it as a classroom. And they would take students into the boiler room to teach them the principles, I guess, of the generation of power by mechanical means. Anyway, I'll just mention as a personal thing, one of my personal naivetes, that when I went to CMU, I actually naively thought it was called Hammerschlag Hall, which means hammer strike, in honor of its original function. It turns out not. It was only renamed that in 1965 in honor of a person with that name. And that is my little map.